Welcome to another session in the Saga Tapestry Project, sponsored by the National Nordic Museum of the United States in Seattle, Washington. I am your host and instructor, Claudia Pétursson. If you are unfamiliar with this project, please refer to the introductory video titled The Saga Tapestry Project of Iceland. If you have not already purchased a kit to join us, please go to the National Nordic Museum online store shown in the link below. All right, let's get started. The outline stitch. The outline stitch has 4 parts, starting and running along a line, finishing when our thread runs out, starting again within the outline, and meeting up again with the line as we complete a shape. We'll go through each of the 4 parts, starting with the basic outline stitch. So you see we have anchored our thread, and we have our needle ready to come up from the back on the pattern line. We come forward along the pattern line about 1/4 inch. We don't want to take too big a stitch or too little, just right. Then we come up from the back and place the needle between the 2 anchors of the thread. We take another stitch about 1/4 inch ahead on the pattern line, then coming up again between the 2 threads. The outline stitch has a lovely rolled look that lends itself to creating accuracy in our work. As you get a feel for your own style, you'll get used to the stitch. We continue on, taking another stitch about 1/4 inch ahead on the pattern line and coming up again between the 2 threads. And then our final stitch, again 1/4 inch ahead on the pattern line and coming up again between the 2 threads. Now we are ready to go to the second part, anchoring a thread when it has run out. So you see we'll take our last stitch, but instead of coming up between the 2 threads, we move straight to the linen field, coming up from the back, take our anchor stitch, then coming up from the back again and cutting the thread. The third part of the stitch is learning how we start the line again when we start a new thread. We anchor our wool, then we come up between the 2 anchor threads of the last stitch. To see this, you may need to push the thread of the last stitch back, and you'll come from the back on the pattern line in the middle of this stitch. So we bring our needle up from the back in the center of the last stitch, come forward 1/4 inch along the pattern line, come from the back, take our stitch, and continue on with the outline stitch. The final part of the outline stitch is what to do when we have completed a shape. Since this is a running stitch, we want to give the impression that our thread never ends, it just runs on and on. So when we come to the end of a shape, we take a final stitch, meeting back with our very first stitch, and then finish off our thread by anchoring it in the linen field. The outline stitch should always look like it is spiraling. Sometimes the final stitch lies too flat, and we need to add a roll to it before we finish it off. We do this by taking a tiny stitch on the outside of the pattern line. You'll have to decide based upon the situation. Embroidery challenges us to make decisions that yield either poor or beautiful results. You'll try some things that work and some that don't. Sometimes it is easy to pull out the work and sometimes not. With practice, your choices will yield results that please you. Please join us for our next video, Special Stitches changing direction. Tapestry kits from the Saga Tapestry Center are available for purchase from the National Nordic Museum. Please visit the online store, and thank you so much for your support of this project.